Welcome to the Born for Greatness podcast. I am so excited. I have one of my favorite people, still one of my dearest friends to this day. I saw that face. James Prendamano. James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Bex. It's great to see you as always. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a minute. I would love to give you the proper intro, but there's so many things to add now. I wouldn't even know where to start. You have accomplished so very much in your career, even more in the last, gosh, what, 5 years, would you say? James is, I spoke about you on the podcast not that long ago, saying that I had learned commercial real estate from one of the best. So for anyone who heard that, here is the best. And so glad that you are here today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So can you just start off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Born and raised in Staten Island, New York. Came up through the old school real estate game. Mom was a pioneer in the business and kind of cut her teeth doing commercial deals that others weren't even contemplating at the time. And she really is a pioneer in the business, a woman in a almost exclusively male industry at that point, working on
Mhm.
commercial deals. So as far back as I could remember, I've been dragged around to appointments and meetings and been involved and around the game. Um, Kind of lost my way going through school. It wasn't something that connected for me and has become a real big part of the project we're working on now. But just felt no value. No, I just didn't belong. It was really difficult for me to engage in school and kind of went off on the wrong rails for a while. But got involved in the business in my early 20s and started as an agent and, went through all of the different iterations I felt were important. Became licensed as a mortgage broker, an expediter, a home improvement contractor, not to monetize those fields, but to understand when I came up against any kind of like roadblock in a deal, I want
Mhm.
real answers of how you got to the solutions. And from there, just kind of grew the business and grew the brand, launched our own brand years ago that you were a big part of. Um, Saw the digital space, I would say, much sooner than others as being a real
Mm.
major disruptor and recognized we had to shift gears and dove into the self-help stuff again in large part because of the work that we did together and some of the things you opened my eyes to. Working on myself and understanding who and what I am has really defined what I've done going forward. But I've done all the kinds of deals, from a house sale to very complex commercial deals and everything in between, and transition to the equity side. Initial transition was probably 10 or 15 years ago, but really focused on that maybe 5 years ago, where, I felt like I brought enough value to put myself in the cap stack and I wanted to own instead of just broker. So here we are.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I know we met, oh boy, this is going to make us feel old. I want to say 12, 13 years ago. We were working on a huge I know, right?
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, we're old.
Wow.
Mhm. Working on a project well, on Staten Island. It was Empire Outlets, which I think is it still open going?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. And so I had was new to the industry and got paired up with you, which was so interesting because you were a veteran. But we clicked right away. Our styles worked really well together. And so I got to learn under you, which was fantastic. But there is definitely, I would say, the amount of growth from that time, even just in your career, has been huge. So, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but it was fun to see kind of going from those bigger projects into the equity side of thing and starting to take more control of what you were doing. I think sometimes it's hard to see like our own talents. and being able to embrace and know that we can do certain things. And it was really interesting for me and fun to kind of watch your journey as you went through that. So I know one of the bigger things that you've worked on here, and I've seen it on your social media, is a very large project in New Mexico. So tell us what you did there. We'll just start there, and then I've got some questions.
Sure. So we saw the signs that I've become comfortable seeing, right? I say dots,
Hmm.
enough dots become dashes, dashes become lines, and legislative risk in New York was top of every SWOT analysis. It was just clear to
Hmm.
us that that was coming, and it became less fun to do business in New York. So we wanted to get involved in a project that went beyond brick and mortar. We wanted to feel really good about what we were doing. We wanted to transform people's lives through the brick and mortar, if that makes sense. Uh,
Hmm.
and we felt a real strong pull to the south and southwest of the country. Looked in a lot of different places. Really, I mean, we ended up picking up, you were a part of that, picked up land in maybe
Yep.
15, 20 different states. But this particular location we fell in love with for a number of reasons. It had all of the indicators for us on the financial side that this was an emerging market. There was the advent, not the advent, it was really the emergence of AI and quantum computing. People weren't talking about it as much 4 or 5 years ago, but being in the
Hmm.
business, we pay attention to that stuff, and we knew that natural resources were going to be a big deal. And there was a copper mine that at that point was like 8 or 9 years into permitting. We felt strong that was going to come online and bring a massive amount of jobs and opportunity. We saw an audience of 1.5 million people a year that would visit this county of 12 or 13,000 people. Like that's a huge amount of visitation
Yeah.
to enjoy the Gila National Forest, White Sands Missile Range, the hot springs, the lake, all of the outdoor things
Mhm.
that we felt post-COVID, one of the good things where people were getting back in touch with that. Folks wanted to spend
Yeah.
time outside. I hate this expression, but living their best life, if you will. Um,
So true.
yeah, it was a pull that we felt, and spaceports there. Virgin Galactic does all their launches from there. They've got a number of different contracts, and space exploration we felt was another market segment that was just fixing to explode. And I think the global space economy last year was like 613 billion, and it's set to be just short of 2 trillion in the next 10 years. So we saw a captive audience that was there already. You didn't
Hmm.
have to capture their heart, you just had to capture their mind. We saw
Yep.
copper mine, economic opportunity. We saw a spaceport, economic opportunity. And it felt like, if you don't have to build an audience, the audience exists already, you just tap into it. So we picked up thousands of parcels. I mean, from hotels to shopping centers, um, infill retail, manufacturing sites, residential sites, golf course. And we said, let's make a real concerted effort to augment what was there. We didn't want to change it because the people are beautiful. The weather is beautiful. I mean, it's just
Mm.
all me, right? Like it's just everything
Yeah.
outdoors you can ever imagine. But we wanted to provide a better level of housing, bring some sophistication to the market from a real estate perspective, re-tenant some of the spaces, and just build on the community. And that's what we've been doing. It's been a wild ride, a lot of fun. We've had a lot of success, great team, but just fell in love with the place. And when I get passionate about something, as you know, that's
Oh, yes.
so we went all in, and we're doing great out there. We just hosted the New Mexico Open, first state open for a PGA sectional to be live streamed. I think the final count was like 11 or 12 million people on Facebook and all the different social channels that tuned in. So it was a great experience, learned a lot. Again, building a tremendous team and having fun. We're building a resort and augmenting the community. So
That's amazing. I will say that golf course is where I saw my very first tarantula. And I remember how upset you were that you
I
didn't get
still
to see one.
have not seen,
Really?
yes, I think of it every time I'm out there. I'm
I
like,
love
shoot, I
that.
see a tarantula. And that's one thing I haven't been able to find yet as I've been out afield.
That's so interesting. I hate spiders, so I did not want to see one. And of all people, I'm the one who saw it, and you haven't. Man, so interesting. But besides that facts, I will say like one thing that you have always been really good at, and I'm not sure if it's a skill set or what, but like you have really good foresight. Do you feel like that is mostly gut? Is that something you've learned? Like, what is your thought on that?
So it's something you can learn to connect the dots to dashes and dashes to lines, but everyone has gifts. And I've learned
Mhm.
over time, as I've dove really deep into what my why is and my core values and declarations and manifesting and vision boards and all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't even know I had a gift, but one of my gifts was vision. And
Mhm.
it's something that you see, you feel. I think it is unique
Yes.
to certain individuals, but you can build on it, and I have built on it. Whether or not everyone can catch those initial dots, I'm not so sure. But things just jump out at me. You feel a spark, right? You feel a
Mm.
spark inside, and when you feel those sparks, sometimes you feel crazy because you're really ahead of the curve. And that's another
Yes.
thing I've learned is that just because I'm seeing it and I know it's going to be, it doesn't mean it's going to be tomorrow. It takes time. But I think it's a unique gift, but one you can build on. And we teach a lot of that in the academy, the macro, the micro, and the site. My philosophy about holistic
Mhm.
approach to real estate. And there are enough data points out there, especially with AI today, where you're able to find those dots, and it's a little easier to string them together.
Awesome. Well, you already alluded to it, so let's talk about it. I know you had always talked about wanting to give back. Like, I will say that that's always something I think that's always been on your heart. You've talked about it for as long as I've known you, and you have decided to give back with this academy. So tell us a little bit about it.
So it started with real estate knowledge. I felt
Hmm.
like I had amassed enough experience, and you being around as long as you were, we were involved in every type of transaction you can imagine, and ones you didn't
Yeah.
even know existed. And I've learned to master those things, and I felt it's got a low bar of entry as far as licensing. From a fee perspective and an exam perspective, it's a way that people can build incredible careers. And I wanted to share that information, and I felt it had to be free. There's
Yeah.
time as you get older, you recognize that we're not all running the same race. Not everyone has
Hmm.
100 yards in front of them. Some people have 30 yards, some people have 300 yards. And I was blessed with a gift, and I've been fortunate enough to monetize that gift between the lines, if you will, in the deals.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't have to monetize the knowledge, and it was my way of giving back as we work through a lot of the coaching stuff together, and so many things became glaringly obvious about my shortcomings as a human being. It took on a different identity. It took on
Mm.
a real core. The first 5 or 6 modules are all about finding your why and gifts and understanding every individual is a unique gift from God. And when you understand that, it really does define, and it's kind of the holistic approach of looking at yourself. You can learn all the real estate knowledge in the world. If you're
Mhm.
not doing it because it sparks to your passion and your core value and your why, it's just a transaction. So
Yeah.
we've spent a lot of time building out the mindset piece of it. And again, we wanted to make sure it would be free forever, and hopefully this catches on for people, and there's so many problems in the world today, Bex, that things are so confusing and
Yeah.
disconnected. The ultimate goal is to transform the country and the world through a number of different ways. Education reform is one of them. I feel very, very passionately that these things need to be taught in schools. I wouldn't have felt so
Yes.
disconnected if I understood the other side of things, if I really understood mindset, if I understood those sparks I felt that I dismissed and kind of shoved down because it made me feel different, were really the sparks of who I am, and that I do
Hmm.
have gifts and that I can build on them, and I should have core values that I can revisit. These things we should be teaching in schools. You know, my kids were blessed and they go to private schools in the Northeast, and the curriculum is scarily similar to what it was when I was in school. And they go to some of the best schools. Uh,
Oh, wow.
how can that be? Right?
Yeah.
That we haven't evolved to look at some of these other things, and we're going to change the education system, and we're going to do it through government reform, term limits. You know, there's a lot of things that fall under the Prendamano project, but I understand the politics side of it. I understand how it
Yes.
translates, you know, to the everyday citizen. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but it doesn't feel like work. You know,
I love that. Yes.
you hear that expression, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, and you don't understand what that means until you
Hmm.
really find what you love, and then it doesn't feel like work. It really doesn't. It's a difference between that grind that I was in, where there was 1,000 items on my smart sheets and everybody was just drowning in tasks, and it was
Hmm.
just this constant push to have to get through, and now it's like you can't keep me from what I'm doing. I love it. I enjoy it. I feel fulfilled, and I want to share that with people. And again, it's got to be free. You know, this is not my worst fear is like getting to the pearly gates and thinking I nailed it. Like, you know, I fucking smashed. Like, look at what I put together.
Right.
You know, having, you know, somebody say to me, hey, those weren't your gifts. We gave you those
Hmm.
and you should have shared them. So that's a big part of my why and my push now. And all of that falls under the academy and the project and different things we're working on now.
I love that. I have started the academy and I did. So, one of the things I noticed and I thought was so unique about what you're doing is you do start off with all that why and mindset and all those like exercises that you and I did together that were so, I feel like we were both, I can remember when we did the personality test for the first time, we were both like, oh, we felt so seen.
Yeah.
But to start it out like that is really, it's just so unique. I haven't seen anything else like that out there. And it really is so important to build that foundation and to understand why it is that you are good at certain things and having passion. So I love that. If anyone is interested, I'll make sure to get you the information to join the academy. Love that you're doing it for free. That is amazing. But so, I mean, so far it's been incredible for what I've been through. So I really encourage people to join and check it out. You're going to learn a ton, which is awesome. So I love that. Okay, so what else is a part of this Prendamano project? You have the academy that we spoke on. What else do you have going?
So I see the dots, the dashes, and the lines, right?
Hmm.
And we can share this information, we can reach a lot of people, and we will reach a lot of people, but to really create an impact, you have to tackle the big issues. And the big issues are education reform and government
Mm.
reform, really across the board. There's not a topic today that you can look at, and one side of the aisle is telling you one story, the other side of the aisle is telling you a completely different story. And
Hmm.
when you're not centered, when you don't understand your why, you don't understand your passion, it becomes a lot easier. You had said earlier, you feel seen, right?
Yes.
And when
Hmm.
you feel seen, it becomes much more difficult for you to be pulled into anyone else's ideology. And I feel like there's a whole world of people that don't feel seen. They don't even
Hmm.
understand some of these concepts. I mean, at 40 years old, I was very accomplished in what I did, and I didn't know most of this stuff. So by sharing this with people, we have to find a way to get it mainstream. And the way to get it mainstream is through education reform. And you can't have education reform. You can't have big pharma reform. You can't have military industrial complex reform. You can't have any of it in government's current iteration. So one of the big projects we're working on first is term limits. 80% of America
Yes.
is in favor of term limits. I don't know if you can get 80% of America to agree on much, but term,
Right. So true.
and you have every election cycle, the approval rating in Congress and the Senate is somewhere between 10 and 15%, but we have 85 and 90% reelection rates. And that's because people are identifying enough with somebody else's ideology. And it's called mimetic theory. When there's a bad guy, there's a scapegoat, it's easier to identify. So like every post,
Hmm.
every message is this person bad, therefore we're going to do this. And you fall into those buckets. Um, and it's not the elected officials' fault on the surface because we put them there and we've kept them there and we made them rock stars and we made them untouchable and they're just people.
Yeah.
So we're
So
proposing
true.
a pardon, a one-time pardon offer for anyone that votes for term limits. Otherwise, you have to do, you need 2/3 of the states to ratify, or you need a supermajority to get it approved. That's a high bar for people
Yeah.
to not have their jobs anymore. So like a one-time pardon across the board, everybody kind of gets a pass. Enough of the lawfare and the BS on both sides of the aisle. Let's fix the country. And with term limits, as you've learned in our work,
Yes.
ties back to the money and the PACs and the super PACs and the donors. And when you don't have the ability to invest in someone you know is going to be in Congress for 30 or 40 years, business interests will pull those donations back and you start getting more real people to go run and represent and then go home and go back to their life. So term limits is a big one, education reform is a big one, and there's a few other big ones behind it.
That's awesome. So you're doing that on top of everything else. So that's really cool that you're doing that. I know you've kind of talked about that for as long as I've known you. So that's really exciting that you're moving along with that. Very cool. So one thing that I will say about you that I think I've always said this about you, and in addition to being a visionary, is you're an excellent teacher. Um, so how has it been teaching the way that you're teaching? Because you're not teaching necessarily, and I know we kind of did classroom teaching at one point, but you're doing it on a screen. Um, what has that been like for you? Because that really is one of your gifts for sure.
So through the exercises in the academy, that kept coming up, mentorship and
Hmm.
so when you lean into it, I have my process where I like to get a collection of different people from different walks of life. We socialize the content for a module. We have a conversation. We record it. Um, we come out with what I think is really healthy, robust material, but we have resources. In the resource center, we point to so many books through book club that have been
Hmm.
transformative, podcasts, different sources of information that we've relied upon. So it's a little uncomfortable for me still to get up and just talk, but
Yeah.
when I've gone through the process and I've seen the faces light up and we've come to a consensus and there's really strong buy-in on the concepts, and I know it's something I fully believe in. It flows a lot easier for me. So the solution was resource center, as a supplement, and doing these things in that kind of communal format first has made me a lot more comfortable with it. So yeah, it's all good now.
That's awesome. So you've done such a large array of different things in the world of real estate. What would you say has been your favorite thing?
I like the big projects. I like finding the sites, understanding the macro climate, when is the election cycle, what policies are ahead of us locally, what policies are ahead of us federally, putting a vision to it, working with the architects, the engineers, all the trades. That's how you really learn the ins and the outs of everything, how to value engineer a project. You and I went through an exercise, I won't say the name, but a top flight architect on a top flight project,
Yes.
delivered when we got to the ops plan, it required like 53 maneuvers for a truck
Yes.
to
I
back
remember
in
that.
to deliver goods in a high velocity location. And it was like
Hmm.
53 maneuvers to back a truck, and this just doesn't
Yeah.
work, right? So you get to, I love those components and seeing how it
Hmm.
all comes together. And then when it's built and it's exactly what you pictured, like you
Yes.
stand on the dirt day one and you see the stores open or the apartments occupied and people pushing strollers and people walking their pets. It's really rewarding to see when it's in the
Yes.
3D, when it's in the physical. And that for me is probably my favorite. The true developer role
Hmm.
type of things, the true founder role type of assignments, I get the most joy out of. And they can be complicated and cross over a lot of different disciplines in real estate. But that's how you learn. It's how I learned. And, I got my hands in everything and I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I know you do. It was always fun to work on those and definitely watch you light up when a new project came across your desk, so to speak. But you know what I think is really interesting is that and I've this has happened to me several times, especially when I was back doing real estate, when young people, as speaks to what you've talked about too, in high school, somebody says, "What do you want to do?" or "What does your parent do?" and they say real estate. You have no idea what that actually means. There is selling homes, and then there is this commercial side that encompasses so much. So, do you get into that in the academy of all these different aspects of real estate?
Yeah, we cover everything from communication and engagement through home selling, properly listing things, commercial deals, land leases, super complex, multi-tenant centers. We get into it, and I love to whiteboard my stuff.
Hmm.
I've long since outgrown the whiteboard, so I have these 20 and 30-foot long big white papers now, like the butcher block paper, and just
Yep.
over time filling out, going through mentally, okay, what is the process in every type of transaction? What are all of the things that you have to think about from building the decks in a commercial center, right? We created
Hmm.
breadcrumbs together, how to reach
Yes.
the tenant community and the tenant rep community specifically in a meaningful, non-annoying way, how to build the decks out with all the data that you knew would be presented in committee. There's so much that goes into it. And again, why it's so important to tie back to the things that you spark to. It can be really monotonous if you don't love it. And when you do
Yep.
love it and you spark to and you just feel that passion in any particular silo, there's so many different places between the brokerage and the equity side that you can fall in, from finance to marketing and everything in between. It kind of feels like there's a place for everyone, but when you have that passion, it becomes exciting. It's something that you love to do, and we cover it all. It's expansive.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say would be like the biggest contributor to your success overall in your career, if anything?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. Coaching for sure.
Mm,
Coaching has opened up a whole another world to me. The self-help stuff. Um, I try to stay away from things that have financial barriers. So if it wasn't something that had a financial barrier, I would say reading. And I hated to read. Hated.
hmm.
Book club has been one of the most powerful things that we've instituted here. And we're years and years into it now. I don't know how many books, but there is so much information that you just don't know. And when you read a book, we don't digest it and wholly adapt it. In fact, most of it at this point, we don't fold into what we're doing, but there's always one or two gems things that we
Hmm.
hadn't contemplated, things that really help you up the game, again, in self-help and real estate, whatever the topic is. I think reading and just being a consumer of content, lifelong learner, right? That term,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think that is the, if I had to pick one, it would be lifelong learner and all the things that come with it. Just being open to and excited and passionate about learning.
That's awesome. That's funny that you mentioned book club though, because I remember when we started it, there were some looks we got when we were like, we're starting a book club, and people just kind of had this, I don't know if it's like a, midlife women sitting around talking about like romance, like that's what people imagine. But you're right, there's so much. And I feel like, and obviously you spoke to it, but like dissecting it with other like-minded individuals, I think really does help bring out even more information than you would even reading it on your own. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
like-minded and people have completely different value sets, different backgrounds. Um, that really has been transformative for me. Things that I thought I saw so clearly, uh,
Mm.
that you look back and go, I might have missed the mark a little bit on that one. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun and it's grown and it's one of my favorite things now. I'm reading multiple books and that sparked really the whole journey for me. A good friend of mine once gave me a Bible that
Mm.
I have read every word of, and now I've gone back and reread it, and I've got my little tabs, because I have to have my
Yep, of course
system.
you go.
I found that what we've been taught and what we think we know from institutions is not what is written. It's
Mm.
not what was said. And when you read through it and you can point to some of the interpretations, and that particular Bible comes with, you know, different chapters and then interpretations, you're like,
Yep.
that's not what I read. It helped me to really lean into the things that I felt that were in many cases the opposite of what I was told, um,
Mm.
aligned for me. Like my faith is stronger than ever before, but it's not in the traditional sense. I've got my own conclusions of what this whole thing is about and what's going on
Hmm.
in the world. But taking the time to read the Torah, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Talmud, has really given me a sense of where are the common themes, what's kind of documented everywhere. And the same thing applied to book club. When you believe you're going to be reading something and it's going to say one thing because that's what society has told you, and it says something really different. That's exciting.
Hmm.
It's just more confirmation that we have to transform education and get people to do their own homework and build that self-worth and value on their own.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on how much AI is becoming a part of not only the education system, but I mean, we're all using it in the workforce. What's your thought around that?
Yeah, super passionate about it, talk a lot about it. Um, they've banned it in pretty much every school. They don't allow you to use those tools and being in the workforce, it's criminal. I don't understand. I get that they don't want AI to be able to do people's homework, but that is just such a basic level of what AI is. And
Yes.
if we don't get people trained up on this in the next 5 years, I think a significant, like 30 to 40% of jobs that exist today will not exist in that iteration. In fact, I'm certain of it. Um, Things are changing so fast and the education system is so far behind. AI needs to be embraced. It needs to be understood. There are some really dangerous things that come out of AI.
Hmm.
The information that it's sourcing and I talk to some really bright people. I have the ability to connect with people of all different walks of life now. And some of the brightest people I speak to that are maybe a little more senior than I am, that don't fully understand AI, make the
Mhm.
argument of, well, this is no different than the printing press or the advent of electricity. And, it transformed the world, but it took a long time. And I'm like, no, this is like a printing press or electricity that had the ability to learn every second and scale every second and access every piece of information in real time to improve itself. It's dangerous. I think
Absolutely.
it's a wonderful piece of technology, but right now we're leaning into these quantum computers, and I'm a pretty bright guy, and
Mhm.
I don't quite understand that the foundation of quantum computing and why it's so powerful is it's able to compute in multiple layers of reality simultaneously. And it's like, wait a minute, how is
Yeah.
it computing in multiple dimensions? What dimensions? What are those dimensions? Right? It's not. I
Mhm.
heard a really great example of AI and quantum computing where imagine there was a library full of books and you hid 10 pieces of paper in the books and you brought in 100 people to find those pieces of paper. It would take a long time.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you built on computing power by now we're going to bring 1,000 people in to look for these pieces of paper. So we'll find them quicker. This is we're going to bring an infinite amount of people in multiple dimensions at the same time to find those pieces of paper. What does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. What does that mean?
It's scary stuff, and you don't know what's real anymore. You don't.
Mhm. So true.
It's so easy to fall in these rabbit holes again. Why the most important thing, if nobody takes anything from real estate knowledge out of the academy, we need for the schools to adopt this kind of core curriculum so they know what's in alignment with them. Um, it's a lot easier to resist these urges to take extreme positions on either side of the fence and stay centered. You know, it's an amazing tool. It's incredible, but we've got to be careful and we got to get
Right.
kids ready because this next generation is not going to be doing things the way we're currently doing them. In just the short time that we've owned the golf course, there's now mowers that we have out there that, I take videos and send them to people just to see their reactions. There's nobody sitting on the machines. The mowers go out, they map the land, they map the terrain in real time, they match it against their data set. They come back, they charge themselves, they clean themselves, they go back out and cut. And people are like, oh, that's awesome. It's like, it's awesome, but these are machines that are
Yeah.
going out and doing these jobs. And how do we replace the jobs that are being replaced by AI and the advent of robotics? And it's an exciting time again, but we got to be super careful and we must pivot what we're teaching in the education system and get these kids to be absolute whizzes in this stuff.
Yeah, that's such a good point and such a great perspective because I don't think people are really thinking about the correlation of bringing it into the school system. I think people, it's still new enough where people are like, oh, that's so cool. But again, not necessarily researching, looking into what it's capable of, what it can do. Um, and I think it's a great tool. And I personally use it every day. It's an
Every day.
awesome tool. Yeah.
It,
But
it's
it,
if you're not using it in your workplace, you're being left behind, right? So how
absolutely.
can we not make that a core piece of what we teach kids? How to manage
Yes.
stuff, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. You're right. People are not understanding how dramatic the landscape is about to shift because it is dramatic.
Hmm. It really is. And it also to what you said, it's faster. We're seeing, it's not like the printing press and all that. We're seeing advancements just in the last, I don't know, less than 5 years that I don't think we would have ever dreamed would have happened this quickly.
We're seeing advancements by the week now. Like where's
Mm,
what was and AI has been around for a long time. It just wasn't mainstream. DARPA worked on AI 30, 40 years ago. But now that it's mainstream, the genie has left the bottle and there's no putting it back in. Uh,
Hmm.
we've now shifted from AI to um, AGI, which is a general consciousness. And
Hmm.
there are some leaders in the space that are working on actually downloading their consciousness to an AI and siloing its ability to access other data so that you can replicate that consciousness exactly. We're doing it in the academy where I don't want my son, he named
Hmm.
it Junior, the chatbot that comes along with it, but it's a fully integratable AI that only uses the things that we've taught and we've uploaded as a basis, right? If you go to AI and say, generate a commercial LOI for me for a retail tenant, you and I
Yep.
look at it and go, this is shit. This is not what you really
Right.
need to know, right?
Yep.
I didn't want it going outside of what we teach it, but we're creating this real estate genius in the AI and it's getting better by the second. Everything that we load into it and we've siloed it. And that's amazing. But again, it's scary. There's
Yeah.
autonomous vehicles in the military now that have been deployed that are all AI. There's a lot of things to think about here. And again, why it's so important. We have this conversation. Everybody puts their swords down and we start fixing things.
I love that. I love that you are on a mission um, to make improvements and to make big changes. So it was an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your day and sharing your insights. If someone would like to get in touch with you, find out about the academy, where do they go?
Prendamanoproject.com. It has that's kind of the brand where all of these things are living now. You can find all the information there.
Amazing. Thank you again.
Great to see you, Bex.